Unlearned Unlimited. Wait. Unlearned Unlimited. Yeah. Hey.
Hello, welcome to Unlearned Unlimited. My name is Dr. Sito, Narcisse. I have my co-host,
Tatiana, Echevarria.
We're super excited. We have a banger for you today, and we have Brother Brian Stevens. And yes, I said Brother Brian Stevens in the house with us, who talks about stuff from school choice to the complexity of the world in schools. And he dibbles and dabbles in that and does great work. Also a great author. If you get to read his book, we'll have him talk a little about that, A Level Playing Field. Great book. But he'll engage with us in a lot of different things around the work. But we are really excited that he took time out of his schedule to come out. Hey, Brian, how you doing, sir?
Well, I want to talk about, I'm fine, but I want to talk about this brother comment, okay? Because I see your little t-shirt you got on there, that little cute fraternity.
Well, listen,
right?
And someone has to be on the yo.
Apparently I can't get in. And I think I'm being blocked by the president of our company. I think he's blocking me. And I think I've gotten blackballed a couple times.
No, man, listen, there is no way. Now, the first thing is we have to accept you, right? You have to go through your process.
I'm willing to get hazed. I'm willing to, whatever it takes, man. Okay, like I'm there.
Top side, we do
I
not.
was like, where's the display?
Okay, well,
that's coming.
That's weak. I want to get hazed. I feel like I haven't. You know, I'm an old Army guy, right? So I gotta feel like I've earned it. But Adrian, I think, has boxed me out of that fraternity. We'll talk about this off counter, but I appreciate the comment. I appreciate it.
Well, listen, we're excited that you come in. One of the things that Tatiana and I have been talking a lot about was we try to bring on different guests onto the show because, you know, we talk about Unlearned Unlimited, things that you think you've learned this in a particular way and you're thinking like, wait a minute, I didn't learn this crap this way, right? And Unlimited is about the solutions that people have done to kind of move the world forward. And as you know, we're in a very complex space right now and people are having different type of discourse and conversations. And I know things are very always around school choice and the future of schools and all that. So we call it kind of the bell curve is what's going on right now in education. And in order to move that forward, we wanted to talk to people like yourself to kind of move that. And so, you know, me and Tatiana as former educators, we've been in this space for a long time and seen the evolution of how this thing works. And so we said, hey, let's talk to you about it. We saw your book is a kicker. If you haven't gone out to go read Brian's book, Brian actually has 2 books, which I'll let him talk a little about. Three books. That's right. So
the first one didn't sell real good, so we don't mention it anymore. I shouldn't.
Well, you know, everything's a progression, Brian. Right? You can't come out the gate and just be like, no, I'm just kidding. But we'll talk a little bit about that. But like we always do in every single show, we always say, instead of us telling people about you, it's always better to let that person tell us about themselves, right? And what really is the main thing that drives the work. Now, I know you're in a lot of different spaces because of the great work you guys have been doing in your organization, Caissa K12 around. It's helping to support kids to come back to schools, re-engaging families, which I think is outstanding. You guys are the leading people in the nation that does that across the country. And I know you guys got covered by New York Times and all these different folks right around the country. So we really kudos to you for that great work. But I think also, too, people don't know, like, you know, there are people that are architecting around this stuff to really help support our kids, no matter what community you are, what color you are, what city, what your dynamics are. And you guys have been in the trenches for that across the nation. And so we really, one is kudos to you and your organization for doing that. And number 2, we always say it's important to talk about great ideas and talk through those things. So if you could just tell us a little about yourself, tell us about, you know, what makes Brian, and welcome to the show.
Man, you know, we were talking before this show started about how painful that part of it is, but it is important, I guess, for people to understand my biases and where I'm coming from, so that I think that's important, so you can determine what a person's ultimate objective is, right? And so you'll hear me talk a lot about objectives and goals and things like that. But I think at heart, I'm probably just a big nerd, you know. But it's weird. It's like a weird nerd formula. And we only represent public schools, right? Like our company, that's all we do, right? So like, where does that come from in me, like as a person, right? Like, why don't I represent charter schools and colleges and all these other things? Well, I think it's because of my background with public education. And I was never an educator in public schools, but I was an adjunct professor and a legal fellow before I went into the job market and stuff. So, but public schools as a child saved me. And I had I had a speech impediment as a little kid, and we were in subsidy housing. I think they call it Section 8 now and things like that. And we didn't have money to like go get speech therapy. And so I'm gonna tell you one joke. Yeah. And you can all make fun of me and laugh, Sito, laugh your little heart out. Okay. So as a kid, I would say my sister would constantly go, say firecracker, Brian, say it. And she'd get all her little mean friends around me because I have speech impediment. Right. And say it, Brian, say it. And they twist my arm, and you know how mean kids are and stuff. And especially my sister, who I love, is, I have to say the love part a lot.
Disclaimer.
And you go, say it. And I'd say firecracker. Go ahead, laugh. I'd say firecracker.
Oh my God, that's so sweet.
No, and then they'd laugh at me and mock me. But we got access because of public schools to speech therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And oh God, Lee, the other thing I had, God, boy, I was a train wreck as a kid. I had I had Forrest Gump legs. Like my feet were turned in like pigeon-toed. And I'd have to wear braces until 6th or 7th grade, like where they'd turn your legs out. So I couldn't run like Forrest Gump. But we had the braces on, and I got a lot of help through the education, public schools, to help us fix all these issues. Right. And that's what was that reflection. I mean, I'd probably be a good drug dealer or something right now. I'd be good at something, but I probably wouldn't have gotten. So, I mean, after that, the Army saved me. So I went through the Army and college. I got my college paid through after I went to basic training. I was in that first Desert Storm, Desert Shield, the very first one.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like we didn't ever saw brown camouflage before then. Like all the tanks were brown. They were all green before this.
Yeah, that's right.
This is in the late 80s. I'm like, what is this brown stuff? I never seen desert. We were trained, in the jungles and stuff. And so the Army helped pay for college. And then I was working on my doctorate in industrial psychology, like how humans move as people, how they think, their biases. I want to talk about these biases too. This thing that you suggested about race and gender and party affiliation and all that garbage, right? Yeah. That stops us from winning. And then I became a lawyer because I don't know, that's what I thought I did. And I practiced for a few years, and I'm glad to have a law degree, but I don't want to practice. My wife's a really good lawyer. I was not a really good lawyer. But we've been doing the education only work for 10 or 12 years now, only recruiting students back to public schools and keeping them there because we believe in public education. And we started years ago starting to see the negative repercussions of school choice. Right. So anyway, but I guess that's a little bit about me. I've started 4 companies. I can talk about 2 of them that went well. I can't talk about the other 2 that didn't go well. I don't want to talk about those. But I think I was as broke as a homeless person with $20 in their pocket when I was in my 30s, and so, you just got to keep grinding it out, so, That's right. I guess that's a little bit about me. I hope that's enough. Please, no more.
No, that is amazing. What a great story to tell too about how you overcame your challenges, and that was through your speech therapy in a public school setting, and what has kind of evolved. That moment has evolved into your passion for public schools and investment too.
It did, but it wasn't always that way. Like I ate the ice cream, or I drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak, on, private schools. And my wife and I started having a little bit of money. And so we had to send, when our child was young and before I found Jesus. All right. We sent our kid,
Snaps for Jesus.
We sent our kid to private school because we thought that's what you did if you had money and you care about your kid. We did that. We thought that was the right thing to do. And I'm running a ton of political campaigns at this point. Okay. Tons. Crisis management for churches, schools, and businesses, and running complex issue campaigns to get people to vote yes or no for something. Like that's our background. Like get somebody by a finite date to make a decision, right? Like, and dealing with the media and all those things. So we spent a lot of years doing that. And I'm sending our kid to private school, and we didn't get any value out of the private school. I mean, not no value, but not any better value. And there were just as many problems and hiccups and issues in the private school as there were in all these other types of school. And then I sat on the board of a charter school, and then my eyes were opened. and the naivety that I had about school choice started to peel back. And so yeah, I sat on a charter school board. I sent my kid to private school for a bit. And by the time she was graduating high school, she was in public school, crushing it. And she's at Virginia Tech now, yeah. So public schools are great, but people don't understand that and didn't acknowledge it enough, just about how awesome public schools are. And I think that's when I started to wake up and I go, wait a minute, but public schools saved little Brian Stevens. They saved me. I mean, with a lot of other people, right? A lot of good people, Mrs. Cundiff, my 3rd and 4th grade teacher, and it saved me. So why should we represent things that we don't believe in? Like if we're going to have a competitive world, I'm full of that. I'm America. I love it. America. Let's compete. let's be awesome. Let's have Coke and Pepsi and Diet Dr. Pepper and whatever. But I represent Coke. Yeah. So anyway, that brings a lot of me.
So let's dive into that, right? Yeah. So you wrote this book called A Level Playing Field, right? And if you haven't gotten it, folks, our audience, go out and get it. It's really interesting, right? And you actually wrote in there we always do our homework, right? So when we went through the book, you talked about this in 2035 prediction, right? That there was going to be, it looked like there'll be some serious challenges for public education facing these challenges, right? And one of the things that we looked at in terms of data was that the National Center for Education Statistics data from 2024 showed that while 80% of K-12 students were in public schools, the number is down from all the previous years, and a growing percentage of those families are opting to go for charter or private schools, right? So how does this trend, would you say, driven by the school choice movement, creates this crisis for public schools? And what's the long-term impact you think it sees on communities?
Let's talk about the trend lines kind of with basic big fat numbers, okay? Big national numbers, all right? We've got about 50 million K-12 students, about 50 million nationally, right?
Yeah.
Now, it used to be about 40 million of that. Now that number's floated up and down, plus or minus 50 million. Now, the trends are that 50 million number is going to go down because of low birth rates.
Yeah.
Let's kind of table that aside because I can't help with the birth rates or I'll get a divorce.
Right. No, we need you to stay
That's
married.
A joke.
That's
a joke. I can't do anything about birth rates. All right.
Stevens, we're trying to make sure he stays safe.
Yeah. So I can't do anything about birth rates. Right. And that's a national problem. But let's talk about the thing, our controllables, so to speak. Okay. So 50 million students. Of that, about 30 million now go to traditional public schools.
Okay.
Not 75, not 90%, but if you count charter schools, homeschools, anything other than private school, it's in that 40 million range, right? There's always been somewhere between, that 5 to 8 million that go to private school. That's kind of ebbs and flows. It increased in the 50s. You know what happened in the 50s, right? We got rid of segregation. And so we had a lot of white flight, which, by the way, we can get back to this. That was the first start in America of school choice was in the 1950s. Okay,
absolutely.
we can talk about
you started to pull students out of schools because they didn't want them to be integrated.
Yeah, they called it scholarships and grants back then, but it was just vouchers. Mm-hmm. It's the same exact thing. Okay, it was about segregation among race. Then we're segmenting now, but it's not about race anymore. But
most people don't know that.
That's why they're that's why they're listening to you guys, right? to get educated, and so if you got about 50 million students, about 30 million of them now go to traditional public schools. That number used to be in the 40s. Yeah. So you're losing students to charter schools, homeschools, and private schools. And then you've got this new thing that's occurred. It's grown rapidly since COVID. You've got as many as 4 to 5 million. The highest, it's hard to figure this out. Somewhere between 3 to 5 million. Let's say 4 million. Let's just say 4 million. 4 million that don't go to school at all. I mean, that's 8%. You've got 8% of kids right now that don't go to any schools. They're not in homeschools, virtual schools, private schools, charter schools, nothing. They are just living in the United States, and they will be living on, here's for you conservatives. They're going to be living off the tax rolls the rest of their life because they're not going to know how to do anything. So if you care at all about your tax dollars and making money and keeping money, not giving money to Uncle Sam, you better educate the kids now before they become adults, or you're going to be paying for them the rest of your life. So let's keep that in mind. So you got as many as 4 million kids that aren't in any school. So, getting kids at homeless shelters to show up to school is just as much of our component as getting kids not to choose a voucher and to pick the local public school, right? Which we know is the best education, right? So if you got 50 million students, you got 30 million right now in traditional public schools. The trends are with vouchers increasing, school choice increasing, those trends are going to continue to split. So I would predict in the next 4 to 5 years, that number is 50-50, right? 25 and 25, right?
Wow.
And then if it keeps going right now, and the prediction is that, so we have 50 states in our Grand Union, right? 45 of them have some component of school choice right now, even if it's just a baby choice, right? But as school choice expands and grows, like you're in Florida right now, right? If in Texas, by the way, school vouchers, 15 and 30,000 for special needs, 15 and 30,000. I mean,
Wow.
Now the theory is, I got so much to break down with you. Theory and reality, very big different things, right? But the theory is it'll give parents choice. Well, it was just like little Brian and Janelle. We thought that the choice was obvious. Private school is going to do a better job. We had no data. We had no evidence to support that. It was just a feeling. It's the same feeling that when a new breakfast restaurant opens up. You got your great breakfast restaurant. You love the eggs. You love the pan. A new place opens up. Why do you go try it? You saw an ad. You saw a marketing piece.
Yeah.
It was good. You go try it. And maybe you go back, maybe you don't, but you still left for a number of visits. And that's what happens with school choice before people realize, well, maybe the pancakes aren't that good.
Right.
But
I drank the Kool-Aid, but maybe it's not.
And that's hard to get people to bounce back. And so it's just a buyer's decision now.
Yeah.
And so those trend lines, if they go unchecked, you're going to have these monumental bureaucracies, public school, lots of buildings, lots of laws, lots of rules, lots of regulation, with less and less students to fund that. Okay. And we could talk about why that's a terrible idea. And so less and less money to fund all these students because all the money is now getting pulled to all these other sources under the belief that these other sources actually will make a better adult, which I think is the whole point of public education, making a great adult, right? Like making a valuable person that can shoot for their hopes and dreams and all those things, whatever those are. Well, there's no data that says any of those other choices are better. There's a lot of data that says they're not. Okay. So you're talking about the trend lines over the next 10 years are more competition. It's not going to go away. Competition is going to increase. And if you want to talk about Ma Bell, I mean, the young kids don't know what that is, but we used to have one big phone system in the United States. Now look at all the commercials you get, T-Mobile, AT&T, once choices come into a society like ours, you don't uncork it. So choice is going to grow. And so I think that those trend lines are going to continue to invert until it gets to 50-50. And then it could keep going the opposite way until it collapses.
Now I have, just for our listeners who may or may not know a little bit about the lingo that we're using, right? Could you kind of give a quick, like, what's the difference between a traditional public school and a charter school? Because for some people, they're like, well, charter schools, they still get operated by potentially the district and et cetera, but the funding looks different and expectations and things are not the same per se.
Man, that's why you guys have a good podcast. You keep framing me. That's a great frame. So let's assume that a mom and a dad, grandparent, whoever, is trying to pick out a little place for Sito to go to school. I got little Sito, and little Sito is a little tyrant, but I want the best education for Sito, right? I need that school. So I'm going to start to explore my options. And if you're in, more and more states, but this is eventually where it's going to go for all states. So let's assume that we fast forward 5 years and these are all the choices. But if you're in Texas, New Jersey, Florida, Louisiana, et cetera, you've got all these choices already. So what can I do? Well, I can homeschool my kid and I can get an online platform. Okay. That comes with pros and cons, right? I mean, maybe the kid won't be around as many other kids and get all that energy, but you have to have a parent there to educate them, and the parent has to have the ability to educate them. I don't have the patience. I could never do that. I'm into people that want to, so, or I could go to my local public school. Now that's free and the homeschool's free. Right. So those are two free choices. Okay. I can do that. Okay. But I have a private school and I have multiple choices for private schools. I got the fancy, expensive ones that say that all the kids are going to go to college and become the greatest, best thing since sliced bread. I've got the religious schools like that will attach to particular really religious ideology that I believe in. That's a choice. Okay. Then I've got this choice called a charter school. Wait a minute. What's the difference with that? Let's talk about that for a second. We'll get to that. But then my other choice is, well, I'm not going to send my kid to school at all. Oh, okay. And then you have
insane, which is insane that that's an option. But
anybody,
Yeah.
Google unschooling. Go to YouTube and click on some videos called unschooling and get terrified.
Yeah.
Get terrified of the people those morons are creating. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah.
Okay, they're morons and they're creating little crazy children. Okay, but anyway.
And homeschools too. Don't forget that option.
Well, I think you could have a great education at any of those other than the unschooling. I think you could have a great education value and you can have a terrible one. And it's not a one-celled organism. Not all public schools are great. Not all private schools are great. It's all very different, but it's a monumental task to learn all your options. Right. So as it stands right now, let's stick with Florida, same in many states. Who am I getting sold to the most? Public schools aren't selling you. They're not giving you the marketing, the data. All you hear is bad stories in the news. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm getting a ton of mail and calls and great tours from private schools, especially because of vouchers. And charter schools are doing the same thing. So let me tell you how charter schools are different than public schools. One, they don't have an elected board. I'm talking about by the people. They have an appointed board by whoever is in charge. They don't have any FOIA requests or transparency laws. They don't have to tell you where they're spending their money. Okay. Okay, wait a minute. Do they have to take every single student? So I'm going to ask you two that. Do they have to admit every single student?
No,
absolutely not. Who do they want? I mean, like, let's just forget about the rules. I'm a lawyer, but let's forget about the rules. Let's forget about the law for a minute. Let's just use human nature. Let's go back to my industrial psychology background. People want to do what helps them. So I want to get the bright kids so that my charter school looks awesome.
Yeah.
I want to get the great athletes. So I'm going to go recruit them. Do I want the little Brian Stevenses with speech impediments?
Probably not.
No. I'm not going to say I'm not going to enroll this student, but we're full now. We can only take 100 students. So I'm just going to take the easiest, the best and the brightest, and I'm going to siphon those off. And this is the same thing for private school, by the way.
Right.
I get a voucher. I have the ability to say no. I do not want a troubled kid or pain in the butt parent. And so I could just reject that because I got 800 seats. I can fill those up. Now you get 10 of those schools, that's 8,000 students, right? That really starts damage. Okay. So then if I am a charter school, I have a private board. I have an insular environment. Do we have to do standardized testing in charter schools? Nope. No. Do you have to do them in private school?
No,
nope. Now we decided with no child left behind that standardized testing was important, but apparently it's not important. It's only important for public school students. I don't know why. If it's important, it's important. I don't really think it is, but necessarily. But so now do I have to comply with all the same laws as a charter school as a public school?
The laws are different.
The laws are different.
The laws are different. What about Title I? What about Title VI? What about Title IX? What about the Americans with Disabilities Act? And I know I'm kind of throwing out a rhetoric of a bunch of different laws, but it is important to realize that when you have an elected board, you are responsible to the people. Okay. And if you want to know, oh no, they have to follow the same rules. Can a charter school shut down one of their campuses without a vote of the public? Yes.
They can.
Sure they can.
Yeah,
Can a public school?
No. We're dealing with some of that here locally.
Yeah, the parents lose their minds. They cook the scream, and the elected board then backs off of that maybe very smart decision to consolidate schools. Charter schools are private. They do whatever they want to. They can also, can a charter school change the curriculum at will?
They can.
Yeah.
They can.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we say as a society that we want a flexible education model, that we want them to be Montessori and to move to what the community wills. Well, why don't we let the public schools do that?
Yeah.
Well, it's completely different rules.
So the argument I hear you making is on one end, the governance approach is different, right? Between the public and the charter, right? These other spaces. And the other thing is it's all about what people's presentation is, right? So they don't, if they don't accept all the kids, if they take some of the kids or whatever their thing is, then that's going to yield to different performance scores or how they present themselves to that community, which is an unfair advantage. Am I capturing that right?
Well, if you guys want to go down the rabbit hole on data, right? So it's what they say, lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? People like to get their statistics up. Educators love it. They love it. In the crime front. So let's take crime statistics. What's the most dangerous city in the world? Well, who knows? Because they all report different data points. So I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, and we get a bad rap, but we report more of our crimes in cities like Nashville. Isn't that fun? Okay, so it's like, wait a minute, why don't we just not report them all, and then we don't look as bad? One's being more honest maybe than the other, but so the data, we don't hold all these other schools to the same standard, so people have the appearance that they're doing better.
Right.
I mean, we reward public schools for two primary things: standardized tests and graduation rates.
Graduation, yep.
Well, I get the idea that a graduation rate is a good thing, but can't we just graduate everybody? Regardless of how good and smart and capable they are? Sure, because we get that statistic up. It was a bad key performance indicator. Graduation rates are terrible for that, but it's what the parents want. It's what the public wants, but not for charter schools and private schools and vouchers and all. So the world's changing. The world wants a different education model. Yeah. Why don't we allow public schools to adjust their model too?
Yeah.
That's my whole premise. Just make it equal.
I was going to say what I find interesting about this is, our podcast always talks about the education and culture clashing, right? And even when you're hearing all these statistics and these numbers and these different perspectives, there's still this sense of like, we want to feel good about what we want to feel good about, right? And sometimes you don't see, perception becomes reality. And, people don't really follow the data and the trends to really pre-predict like this is what's going to actually happen. I find sometimes people will ignore data to make sure that they can make whatever point they need to make, right? So it almost feels like if I say this more and more louder and louder over and over, that's going to become true. So the truth becomes what I say over time, or how loud I repeat it and how much I do X, Y, and Z. And I think like the thing I like about what we're always trying to do is we're trying to get people to think like, this is what you're going to hear about, but this is what's actually going on, right? And you got to make a decision on how you process that information.
Well, it's unrealistic for us to predict that Brian and Janelle, and trying to find a great school for Sito, is going to go and find all the information and all the facts. We're not. We're too busy. We have too many other responsibilities. It's like voting, and this is where we get our background. The candidates have got to present their best foot forward so you can make a choice. And typically, I was in the election commission in Tennessee for a while, and people typically make their voting choice as they're standing in line at the voting pool. I know that sounds shocking for people that are like diabolically, politically aside, but like for city council, nonpartisan races, you're like, man, I got to figure this out. And you're going to figure it out first and try to make the right choice, right?
Yeah.
So here's what's unjust and unfair to your point about emotions. Yeah, 80% of us are led by emotions, and we find the facts to justify our decisions. I do it all the time. I don't drive to prove this, I don't drive a minivan. Okay. Now a minivan would be the perfect car for me. It would be ideal. I can fit all my bikes in it. I can fit my gear in it. Have you driven a minivan? They are so comfortable, but emotionally I can't drive them.
That's how I learned how to drive in a minivan, but we can talk about that later.
I love them. I love to rent a minivan, but my ego won't let me own a minivan because if it was just data, if it was just facts, we'd all own a Honda Odyssey. That would be the only car for sale. That would be it. But we can't do it. You got to, get the the Range Rovers and the Jeeps. And, that's a terrible car for me, but that's what I own. But when we started to represent public schools, a lot of charter schools putting out ads, TV commercials, talking to parents, giving first class tours, doing all the things you would think that somebody that was trying to sell their product would do, just reasonable things. Right? They're going to market to the consumer, just like colleges do, right? Like if you've got a kid going to college, you're going to get stuff from every college and they're going to try to recruit you. They're going to send nice pamphlet. All that seems appropriate. But when 10 years ago, we started doing it for public schools, people lost their minds. I'm talking about politicians lost their mind. Parents lost their mind. How dare you use tax dollars to market to the parents and say how great your school is? How dare you? And they would lose their minds. But meanwhile, the charter schools get government money, and now through vouchers, private schools get the money, but they're doing the same thing. So we want to ban public schools from talking about how awesome they are. That's a recipe to destroy them. Let them, hey, we've got these 3 awesome programs, these awesome extracurricular activities. If you like that, you got a great band program, whatever, come here. That's what the competition's doing. Why isn't that equal and fair? Well, because there are certain elements in society, and I've been naive to this, that actually want to destroy public education. And I've been naive to this, but I think I've woken up in the last year or so. But so when we talk about, if people don't know, if you don't put out that you're awesome and what programs you got that are working, that are great and cool, how do you expect the public to know? You expect them to go and like call up every teacher in the school and find, you've got to push it onto them, just like opening up a new restaurant.
It's like going on a date. If you don't put your best clothes on and everything, she's not going to go out with you.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about dating anymore.
You've been off the market for
I've been off the market for 20 years. You're not going to sucker me into using that analogy, sir.
I would advise you not to respond to that. Yes, I would. Now, as we're talking about, we started talking a little bit about competition. Specifically, there was a statistic here that says the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools reported that charter school enrollment grew by 7% during the 2020-2021 school year. And I'm assuming that probably has a lot to do with post-COVID to some trends there. And while traditional public schools saw a decline of 3.5%. Now, your work with your organization focuses on helping public schools be able to compete, and you've shared a little bit about that. How can public schools, with their often rigid systems, as you just talked about, they saw some backlash with using tax dollars to market themselves, compete with the nimbleness and often specialized offerings of charter and private schools?
I think it's about leadership. Okay. I think that 5 or 6 years ago, the leaders of these schools would get pressure from the public, right? Unfounded pressure, unclear pressure. And they didn't want to push back against that pressure. Right. I get it. Why? I don't want to fight if I don't have to fight. I don't want to have arguments. I don't have to, but those days are gone now. Okay. And the one thing that we've seen more of the school leadership do, especially in the last year and a half, which has been really fun to see, they're getting okay with competing, and they want to compete and they want to push back. They want to just not even push back as much as just present themselves to the world. And they have a right and a duty for the children to do this. I think it's a duty to the children to actually advocate for yourselves, right? In whatever way you want to, but you have to stand up to the politicians. You have to stand up to the parents. Now, I would say this, the parents that typically push back are the parents that are going to charter school and private school, not the ones going to public school. So you've got to learn. It's like, it's this whole thing. Like if you're in the public, you cannot read the comments, because if you have a YouTube channel, if you read the comments, you'll shut down. You've got to ignore it. If you're the mayor and you try to listen to everyone, you'll do nothing. You will get nothing accomplished. So if you're a superintendent, you're a school board member, you're going to upset some people. You're going to upset some people that believe that vouchers are the right way to go for every student and everything should be a voucher. You have a duty to push back against that, because those people are wrong. They might not know that they're wrong, but they have to be educated too on what the true outcome as vouchers stand today. Vouchers could be done better. They could be done more appropriately, but they're not being done that way now. And so I would say that they have a right, you have a right, but you have a duty to compete. You have a duty to market and advocate for yourselves in whatever fashion you feel appropriate. And when people push back on you, let them know that you didn't design the system. You didn't build the school choice movement. That's the reality of today. And that's where you're going to be, because you're going to take care of the kids that you have and all the kids. You're going to take care of the children. And that means letting parents know about all the fine, outstanding ways that you're going to educate that kid and make them a great adult. It's a duty now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's tap in a little bit into like the industrial psychology of education, right? I know you've been in that space, right? So you wrote this book that's called "The Customer is Not Always Right," but we sure do need them, right? So I wanted to ask you a question around teacher burnout. So the American Psychological Association found that teachers' stress and burnout are at an all-time high, right? About 61% is the number I think they gave. And it said most educators report that their job is always often stressful, right? How do your principles of industrial psychology help public school systems like navigate these internal and external crises, and especially with dealing with stress about parents because parents now, as you can know, there's a whole different dynamic of parents we have now, much younger. There's much more factors of stress, you know, especially when it comes to socioeconomics, jobs, families, communities, those type of things.
So let's talk about stress for a second. All right. Everyone has stress, but there's good stress and there's bad stress. Teachers don't mind good stress. They don't mind a ton of pressure. What they don't like is bad stress. And this is true of any employee in any industry in the country. And so industrial,
Brian, give me some examples of between good stress and bad stress, just so our audience can understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So an industrial psychologist, I track the movement of the human psyche in groups and patterns, right? I'm not a clinical psychologist. I don't want to hear about your day-to-day problems. Okay. I don't want to hear about your trauma with your mom. Like, that's not me, right? But the movement of stress and anxiety, like, I'm not that guy, right?
Which is what most people want to talk about.
I know. I don't want to talk about that. I want to hear about your mama and your bad relationship or whatever. I got it. I got
have therapy next week. Okay.
Yeah. No, hey, it's needed. I think you should go get that. I probably need a lot of it. You know, but so let's talk about stress. Is people can tolerate stress if they believe that there's a positive outcome at the end of that tunnel. So take ultra endurance sports, right? Which I'm a big hobbyist of. I don't mind doing a 100-mile mountain bike ride if I believe that the benefits at the end will make me feel a certain way. I'll go through that gauntlet. Like when I was in the Army, I jumped out of planes when I was in the Army. Well, heck, I don't want to jump out of no planes. That's stressful.
Yeah.
But the benefits of the reward are there, and it's clear and it's precise, and I know where I'm going, and I'm not going to get sabotaged. Now let's talk about the sabotage. Teachers feel sabotage. Front desk workers feel sabotage. Principals can feel sabotage. Heck, superintendents can feel sabotage. If the leaders above them don't back them up in a pinch, that is really bad, stressful. So let's assume that you've got little Sito. I'm sorry, you're my target right now. Okay. Is you don't graduate, you're not ready to go from 3rd to 4th grade. You just don't have the skill set. Well, parents lose their minds. And the customer service book, which is only about teaching people how to deal with crisis and stress. Like that's what that whole book is about, right? Customer service is really about dealing with stress in a positive way. Right. And so I spent years, and I still do this somewhat if a school district wants it. I'll go and train their people on how to deal with disruptions and crisis and difficult situations. You know, that fight or flight mentality where you want to something up or run from it. That's the principle behind all this. So a teacher gets in fight or flight. And what we want to do is teach them to think. But let's assume that I say Sito doesn't have the basic core curriculum to move to 4th grade. And it makes sense for Sito because it's going to make him a better adult. It's going to hurt for a year. It's going to stink to leave those kids behind. I mean, we don't like that. You know what I mean? Or you have to double up summer work or whatever. But instead the parents yell and scream. And then somebody up the level says, just pass them, just move them up, just move them to the next grade. Right. I mean, it's happened. I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of teachers.
It does not help the kid at all.
Well, it doesn't help the kid, but it sure gets somebody to stop yelling and screaming at you, which takes away the pain temporarily. Okay. But that temporary takeaway of pain causes a massive amount of stress because teachers, by and large, want to do a good job. Principals, superintendents, they want to train the kids. And if they're barred from training the kids, that creates really bad stress because there's no great end result. Because I'm not going to create a great kid now. I'm going to create a little problem child that I can't fix because nobody wants to sit down with the parents and go, look, what's your goal with Sito? Well, I want him to graduate. No. Long term. Do you want him to live in your basement until he's 35? That's the way we like, do you want him to live in the basement? Do you want him to live off of you? Do you want him to go to school or military or trade school? Or what do you want? What are your hopes and aspirations? What's the long-term vision? And when we talk to parents that way, they slow down and they go, well, I want all those great things. Great. The right thing to do for Sito then is to hold him back for 1 year. If that's what you really want, they still might get upset, but they understand that you're trying to do the right thing for that kid. But we don't slow down and have those conversations enough because, we got to fill out government paperwork all day. We have to worry about standardized testing. We have to, I'm not saying it's easy to have those, but that's bad stress. And so a teacher's going to get burned out when they build a curriculum and then they're sold, no. You have to do a curriculum that's built for a standardized test. But I want to teach them to be problem solving. I mean, I never give any of my employees standardized tests, not once. I don't know why standardized testing becomes so important. We need problem solvers, which, by the way, school choice talks about charter schools and Montessori. We can do flexible. We'll make great competitive kids that do problem solving. Well, public school teachers want to do that too. Let's let them do that, but we got to uncork the laws. So that bad stress and burnout happens because you get there early, you stay late, you work hard, you don't get paid a lot, all these things you knew, but then you're not supported. then you're not supported. You get families come scream and yell at you, and you're not willing to, pull them aside and have tough conversations with it's unacceptable behavior. You can't scream and yell at me. But because public schools have to take every single student, they get all these pressure points. Meanwhile, the ones that never complain, the parents that never bitch, they see all this and they just quietly go to another school. Same thing with your employees at any company. The employees that don't complain out here in our office, and we get 100 something of them, the ones that don't complain, that just do their jobs, are the ones I'm terrified about. They're the ones that will just quietly leave if they don't like things, just like a parent.
Wow.
So, well, that's really bad stress.
Yeah.
And so training people on how to deal with difficult situations, which is why I wrote that. That was my second book, by the way, is and that's only for public school people. And I would encourage people. I mean, I'll send them a free PDF of it. I'm not going to send you a fancy hard copy to sign, but we'll send any public school a PDF of that, and they can train off of it today for free. I don't care. Take it. Let's give the teachers tools, front desk workers, bus drivers, tools to deal with this stress. So we keep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I noticed that. I 100% agree with you. And, in all the places I've worked, what I've always noticed was the more tools that people have
to have like hard
they're easier to navigate. I tell folks, you're going to deal with some form of stress, right? But how do you navigate it? How you get backed up, all that stuff. I mean, what I found interesting in this whole cycle is the higher you moved up the food chain, the higher the politics played more of what actually happened in terms of people making the right decisions for kids.
But it is fair to also train the school board on this. I mean, a lot of school board people, they're good people. They get elected. They're drinking through a fire hose. They want to do the right thing. And they have to be taught leadership skills too. They have to be taught great customer service skills too. And I think customer service for public schools is not about, may I help you, sir or ma'am? I think it's about teaching all of our staff to deal with difficult situations in a way that doesn't make people panic. That makes them think and smoothly transition to resolving the conflict and problem. And that can be done. And I love that more and more schools are doing that, by the way.
Now in real time, what would that look like? Because we obviously know we are in this place where a lot of parents are feeling like public schools are not responsive to the needs of my child. And some of them, they may have valid arguments. Some of them just see what's out there and they're like, well, maybe the grass is greener on the other side. What would it look like in real time for public schools to apply your crisis communication, rules to rebuild trust and satisfaction?
Yeah, I'm going to I'm an invert on this one. Okay. I'm going to give you the opposite. Is I want people to say no to more things. I want superintendents and school board members to say no to more things. And because right now, I think more and more schools get that customer service is important and they're drinking through fire hoses. There's too much and they're not going to implement it well. I'm a real big fan of 8% improvement. Not 10. 10's too much. 10 will make people try to do everything and they'll only do 50% of it, or 70. They won't do it repeatable. And so if you want to build a habit, it takes, there's some different science on what it takes to build a habit, but basically it's, if you do something 14 times in a row with no gaps and no doing it incorrectly, you're going to start to build a habit. Okay. But the first time that you don't do it, like, so if you want to work out, you need to work out 14 days in a row, not weekends. I mean, 14 days, you can't, if you take 2 days off on a weekend, well, then that's not 14 days in a row, is it? Okay. It's becoming 30 or 40 days if you start taking gaps. So if you work out 14 days in a row, you will start to develop a habit and kind of want to produce that habit, right? So I like school districts say, look, we're going to do an 8% improvement on marketing, 8% improvement on customer service. That way you're saying no to a lot of the extra stuff to build habits, right? So if it's customer service, we are going to do one customer service training session. Forget about everything else. I don't know. It's so hard to find the time. Virtual's all right. It's not as interactive, but I'm going to do one session with my people. And at the start of that session, I'm going to tell them, guys, we know that you need help. We know that you need support. I'm going to take that pressure off. This is the start of trying to take care of you. The reinforcements are coming. We're going to give you what you said, tools. We're going to give you more help, but we have to do it slowly. It's not all going to happen in a week, but I'm going to give you this 3-hour role play on training to help you deal with difficult situations. And it's going to feel better. And we're going to come back and do it again and again and again over years. that alone decreases people's stress because they know what's coming. They know you're trying to take care of them and they're not abandoned. Now I've talked to both sides, right? I've trained as many as 900 bus drivers in Indianapolis. It was a crazy day. Okay. It was a crazy day. It was crazy. It was so much fun. It was a crazy day. And school board members, and they all, by and large, want the same thing. They don't communicate well. They don't talk enough. They don't say what they can put a memo out, but it's not the same thing as action. And just showing people that you care about backing them up and that the reinforcements are coming will take out stress, and it will help with retention, by the way.
So let me pivot us to this. I know we'll call this kind of like our unlimited version, right? AI right now is playing this huge role in how society's functioning and what jobs look like in the future and those things, right? And I know your organization, you guys have been tremendously successful, especially when you talk about the ways you guys work with kids, bringing them back into schools and those things. And you guys are actually in some of the biggest cities in the country, right? I mean, in a lot of all these states. What has been the most surprising aha thing, right, that you have seen that you're like, I did not know about that? And then, and how would you say you guys have been pivoting and thinking about that as you're, wanting to see different things happen with AI and work with them?
So just to frame this, are you talking about just from like what we do for a living, or like in the AI and learning space?
In the AI and learning space.
Okay. The smartest school district I've seen when it comes to AI, I was sitting in a meeting where they were, Spring Branch ISD in Texas, fantastic client. I'll say the name. Love them. I love them. And I got the pleasure last week or the week before to sit in as they're evaluating companies that do their communications, like their text message, emails, websites, and all that. And AI came up, and I loved what they said. I loved it. They said, "Whoa, AI is interesting, but we're going to be very, very cautious." Instead of everybody just running towards AI, the next sexy, shiny object, like they're not moths running right into the electric lamp. You know what I mean? Because AI, just like all technology, is fraught with potential awesomeness and potential problems. And to start making rapid adjustments too quickly without understanding the long-term repercussions is a mistake. And I think that taking a more, they said, we're going to be, what's the word they use? I think they go, we're going to take a very optimistically cautious approach. So they're not going to convert everything to AI and then toss it out. It's kind of like apps. There was a time when everybody had to have an app. And I was like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. You want the apps that you want, but I don't need an app for every single business in the world. I open the app one time, I have to go through the app and I never open it again. Like I've already got a website. You're spending tons of money. And this is from a school district's perspective. You could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars building AI or some tech that no one ever uses. And that's terrifying because it's a waste of resources and time and energy, but I have to have an app. I have to have an app. Lots of companies don't have apps now. And I don't hear companies trying to create apps unless it's going to be a vigorous one. Right. And so a cautious approach to AI, I think, is very, very smart. Be very aware, get it going, but realize it's like phones and social media. There's going to be negative consequences to it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, but it's just like phones. The school districts now that are having phone policies to ban phones from being in school. It feels genius. It feels like the right move. And I know parents that are freaking out about it. We didn't have phones. You don't need a phone. You need to learn.
Yeah.
It's about building a good adult, not having them access to this little tyrant, and so I'm glad that they're taking an optimistically cautious approach with AI. I think that surprised me instead of everyone just jumping on the bandwagon. But sorry.
Now, what about as we talk about, social media, being cautious with AI, there is also a belief that we need to move into this era of offering like digital literacy courses, especially for, I think adults need it just as much as children, but that's a conversation for another day. But what are your thoughts on more schools, potentially maybe in the middle school space or high school space, offering digital literacy as we are also ramping up the usage of AI for this generation?
I think once again, I'm going to go back to my old Army days, right? What's the goal? What's the objective? And I believe that the goal and objective, outside of great mission statements and vision statements and all those things, I think the goal is to produce an outstanding adult in some sort of capacity. I don't know. For me, it was the Army. my daughter, I want her to get her doctorate degree. Like that's what she wants. That's her goal. It's not my goal for her. Okay. Don't yell at me, but she always wanted to become a doctor. So she's going to become a doctor, and that's her goal. But like somebody else could be like, one of my best friends is an outstanding professional bike racer, and that's his goal. I love it. Right. If the goal is an outstanding adult, I'd like to know how the digital AI learning, et cetera, gets us there.
Mhm.
Right. And I've seen a lot of tests. I've seen a lot of platforms. I think that it'll get there. But if it makes it, boys especially will learn a lot more through computer games because it's bells and whistles and it's energy and it's eclectic. You can learn a lot about things because it's interactive, right? They need that. If it creates an interactive model that gets them to learn history and that the earth is not flat, I'm all for it. But if it gets them to think the earth is flat and everything is a conspiracy, maybe not so much,
Mhm.
so, I think that public schools and communities should have the flexibility to adjust their models though, which they don't, so I think that would be a great path for us.
So listen, we could talk to you, Brian,
I know,
all
so good.
day. I got like 50 more questions, but
I
like
know.
we don't have enough time. Two things we wanted to do. One, did you have a final thought? And then number two, we want to get you one day to come live to the studio so we can have some more conversation around this stuff. So, but what is some of your final thoughts as you think about where public education is, this whole movement that's going on right now?
Well, let's do those in reverse. I can easily catch a plane to come see you guys. All right. That's, are you guys out of Tampa? Where are you located?
No, we're actually in Jacksonville. So we do it between Jacksonville and Miami.
Yeah. Jacksonville and Miami both have great rides. So I'll just bring a bike. I'm great. All right. I always travel with a bike. It's weird. Number two, I think here's my closing thought. I want school leaders to know this, and I can come back and talk about all the scientific data that supports this. You offer the best education for the most number of children, and without you, we as a society have massive problems. And so, and this is from an old Army guy. I got a doctorate degree. I get it, man. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, the science is there that you're the best. Start believing it, get your teachers and staff to believe it, and you'll have less turnover. And you have a duty now to save public education, because as it goes right now, I don't want to be a doomsdayer. We have problems that we need to adjust. So I'm there. I'm in it with you. I'll fight with you. I'll provide education with you. I'll come speak to your schools, whatever you want, to let you know that you're the best. And to start advocating for yourselves. That's my hope.
All right.
I think about that, and also just the city we live in, and knowing that so many public schools are undergoing consolidation right now within our own school district. And there is such a lack of knowledge, I think, for the community as well about the impacts that it makes when we are losing more and more students going into public schools in terms of workforce, just the community overall, people leaving that community. So what's going to happen to that community in its entirety? There's just a lack of understanding of what the effects are as more and more people transition into school choice options.
I know we're done. I get it. I'm so sorry. But if you don't tell your story, no one else will.
That's right.
Just kind of keep that old basic principle in mind. Tell your story.
Yeah. So no, I just think it's interesting. We talk about how like public education is, it's a health crisis. Like we need to know more and talk more about what impact this is really having. And there's not enough discussion about that. So.
Well, that's why we have these discussions here on our podcast, Unlearned Unlimited. We're super excited. Brian, Steven, thank you so much for coming to the show. We're going to take you up on that offer to come back. We're going to have a whole nother session, have you come live to the studio. Go out and pick up Brian's book, A Level Playing Field. He actually has a couple of books, so you can check it out. We're also going to put Brian's handlers and everything in our list. So, we always like for folks, the good thing is that we always allow our folks to reach out directly to our guests.
Yep.
Any questions you have, when you put in comments or you send us emails or anything like that, we'll send it directly to Brian so you can build your own connection. Brian has done great work, not only building companies and doing great work, bringing kids back, but he's also worked in a lot of different places around the nation. We'll have all his information in our stuff. So please make sure that you share, like, subscribe. If you like everything that you've been hearing on our show, we love the contributions. We've been really excited about the number of views that we have, not only actually here in the United States, we also have views across the world, which has been even more interesting to, listen to teachers out in Bangkok or in France or those things. So reaching out to us. So that's been really cool for us, but we're really excited. Make sure you check us out on all the platforms. We have all the platforms from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Check out our LinkedIn, TikTok, all that stuff. Anything that you want to know, please make sure you share, like, subscribe. If you want to give a contribution to our show, you can do that as well. Please go ahead and do that. But we're super, super excited. Brian, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. We always try to bring you the folks who talk the truth, as we always say, and we're always on Unlearned Unlimited. So another banger, Tatiana.
All righty. Thank you, Brian.
All right. See you on the next one, Unlearned Unlimited.